Hey everyone, this is Nona from theAlignedLover.com. I have another comparison video for you today. We are looking at soft gamines versus soft naturals. I have 3 different examples from each category so we can explore a larger range of these types and figure out what differentiates them. Real quick, I got this new mic, so hopefully the audio is a little bit better. I know it's been kind of crappy. I've been using my laptop mic. Not the most tech-savvy person, but please bear with me. So, let's begin. I know there's a lot of confusion between these 2 types. They're very similar. They're both softer. They have fleshiness to them. They both have a bit of angularity to them. And they're both around the same heights, give or take. Of course, there are taller soft naturals and shorter soft gamines that look very different, but there's this murky kind of middle ground, and that's what we're going to talk about today, at least in some of the video. So what I've noticed between the soft gamines and the soft naturals is a big difference in 2 factors. One is the head to body ratio. Soft gamines have much larger heads compared to the rest of their body. And the second is limb quality. Soft gamines have much shorter, rounder limbs, no matter if they're fit, muscular, overweight, underweight. There's always this kind of round, wide, and short quality to their limbs. Besides those physical traits, there's also their essences. So soft gamines have more of a firecracker, prosecco, bubbly, kind of elf-like fun essence to them, whereas soft naturals have more of a stable, smoother, more earthy kind of freshness and youthfulness to them. So if you just chew on a few different soft gamines and soft naturals, hopefully you can pick out their vibe. So we're going to start off looking at 3 soft gamines, and then we'll look at 3 soft naturals, and then we'll look at them side by side. So to start off, we have Eartha Kitt. She is actually very muscular and toned. If you look up yoga pictures of her, she does some very incredible poses. Even so, she still has that quality to her limbs, especially with her legs, her upper thighs. They're very round. You don't have that elongated kind of musculature. It's more wide. It's more compact. The distance between her knees and her upper thighs in proportion to the rest of her body, very short. Same with her forearms. The limbs can really be different in terms of the shortness. Sometimes the upper arm is longer and the forearm is shorter. Sometimes it's the other way around, but with a soft gamine, there's always that lack of balance and lack of symmetry with the limbs. Besides that, she also has the head ratio I was talking about. She has quite a large head, and her shoulders are more compact, even when they're muscular. The most muscular picture of her shoulders can look very wide in terms of muscle, but in terms of bone structure, they're still very compact. And in terms of essence, she has that kind of firecracker quality I was talking about. So the next soft gamine is Linda Ronstadt. Again, you can see her head is quite large. Her shoulders have a tiny bit of that angularity and just a tiny bit more straightness and broadness, but they're still quite compact. And if you look at her limbs, especially her thighs, they're very rounded. They're not large, but they have that compact, short, and very round upper thigh quality. You can see it as well in her upper arms here. They look quite small and short. And the rest of her body is not quite straight, but it's just a very soft, slightly indented torso that she has. It's not an hourglass. It's not very symmetrical. It's a mix of broadness and straightness and fleshiness, which a lot of soft gamines have. And You can see in her face and her posture, she has that very elf-like, Gamine, playful nature about her. So for our last soft Gamine example, I actually have two. They're twins, the Olsen twins. I picked these two pictures. We have Ashley here at, a heavier weight, and then I think Mary Kate here at a very, very lean kind of physique. Despite that, they still have very short limbs. Their upper arms are very short. Their legs are also quite short. You can see it more with Ashley here. They're rounded, they're compact, very, very small and petite. The same kind of slightly indented, but mostly broad and straight, but small kind of torso. And just a look of overall, large-headedness. They have very large heads compared to their bodies. And again, with the shoulders, there's that slight bit of angularity. So those are our soft Gamine examples, and we're going to move on to soft naturals. So our first soft natural example is Helen Mirren. Here, you can just look at her limbs and see such a big difference. They're just more consistent in their shaping. It's not really rounded at the top as much. Yes, there is softness, there's fleshiness, especially with the leg, but it's more of a evenly distributed broadness. It's not as short, not as round. It's like a soft rectangle, if you will. Her head is much smaller than her body compared to the soft Gamines. She looks just a bit more womanly because of that elongation, her limbs and her body and the smaller head, and her shoulders just a bit more angular and sharp than the other soft Gamines. Here we have 80s legend Molly Ringwald. We're looking at her shoulders here. They're not the broadest shoulders. They have that slight angularity to them, small head, elongated limbs, more even, just a bit more of an hourglass shape to the soft naturals. You can really see it here. I know it's low contrast with the stairs, but she has the same quality to her legs, the same consistent kind of soft rectangular shape, a bit more fleshiness in the chest, and just a smaller waist to give you that, more elongated, soft, athletic hourglass look rather than the super curvaceous, romantic kind of hourglass. And for our last soft natural example, we have Kat Dennings. I chose her because she is more of a curvaceous soft natural, but she still has the soft natural body. She has the limbs that have that broadness to them, sharper shoulders, elongated body, smaller head, more of a pronounced waist and hip. Just a bit more athletic looking than, say, full-on romantic. They've got a little bit more meat to them. So now we're going to look at these two lovely types side by side. So first off, we have Linda and Molly Ringwald. First off, all I see is smallness and then elongation. When I look at Linda, what really pops out is how round and compact she is. She just looks so tiny and petite compared to Molly, who looks a lot longer, a lot more elongated. She just seems a lot more youthful, a lot more elf-like, Gamine-like than Molly does. Molly just has more of an earthy kind of sensuality to her, whereas with Linda, the more dominating essence is one of bubbliness, playfulness, youthfulness, like a mischievous kind of Tinkerbell. And then with Molly, it's more of a grown-up earth nymph, if you will. So for the next one, we have Eartha and Helen. Again, Eartha looks really small, petite, compact next to Helen. Very different quality of limbs. Here, even though Eartha is more muscular and more lean, in her legs and her arms, she still has that bit of roundness in the upper limbs. And with Helen, it's just much more evenly distributed. She doesn't have that same, exaggeration of the upper limbs, and her limbs just look a lot longer. Again, we have a very spunky, playful kind of vibe coming from Eartha. Obviously, she is Eartha Kitt. And with Helen, it's much more, subtle. It's more diffuse. It's more earthy. She looks very natural here in this beach setting. It really, really matches her vibe. And for the last one, this one is a bit of a confusing comparison because I picked this photo of, I think this is Ashley, and she looks, very far from being round. She looks very long here because of her outfit, her leanness, and the pose. But if you look closely, we can figure out why she's more of a soft gamine and why she's not a soft natural. So if we start off looking at her shoulders and her head, it's more compact. I know it's harder to see sometimes when someone wears all black and a very straight outfit, but you can really see here, small head, smaller but slightly angular shoulders. She just looks very short. If you look at her legs and her upper arms at the bend here, they're quite short. And there's not too much muscularity or strength in her limbs. Whereas with Kat, you can see a bit more muscularity and elongation. Her arms, not so rounded, they're just more broad and even overall, a smaller head and just more curvaceous around the torso. Here, if we're looking at her essence, her vibe that she's giving off, she still has more of that youthful, bubbly, sprite-like kind of energy, whereas Kat is more sensuous, more womanly, a bit more grown up, even though she's wearing an outfit full of stars and brighter makeup. So I hope that helps. I know it can be a little confusing, but if you look at those two factors, the head to shoulder or body ratio, and just really the quality of the limbs, the roundness, the length, the evenness, it's a little bit easier to tell if you're a soft gamine versus soft natural. And more importantly, look at your vibe. Which one do you feel more attracted to? Which one are you more polarized to? Are you more like Prosecco, or are you more like Pinot Grigio? Both are very bright, fresh, youthful, but one is very, very bubbly and more effervescent, more animated, and one is smoother, more mellow, a lot more full-bodied. I would say overall as well, the soft gamine has different distributions of lightness, angles, heaviness in their body, whereas the soft natural is more consistent and more even with their gravity and curvaceousness throughout the body. It's not as separated and eclectic as with the soft gamine. So I hope that makes sense for you. I'll make more comparison videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye.